It is 3 o'clock on a Thursday. It is Thursday. Wow, we're moving right along. Excuse me here while I
had to think about that for a second.
While I adjust my microphone stand, which consistently falls down on me for some reason. He's Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. This is the Postgame Show. We appreciate you being with us. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. I love your sweater.
Thank you. I actually think I got this last Christmas, and I think I've maybe worn it like twice.
See, it's like
it's very
very wintry.
Yeah, it's very like ski lodge after you go skiing.
Yes, that might be the most accurate way of putting it. I would say that
the French call that après ski.
I would coach a college basketball game in that thing in the 90s.
Ooh, see, I could not. Let me tell you why.
Because you're going to sweat.
I would sweat right through it, my man.
So would I. But, if my players are sweating, I'm sweating.
Sure.
That's the creed around
Gary
here.
Williams style.
Absolutely. I look like Bruce Pearl in the early 2000s out there.
Yeah, Bruce at least, just wears he goes ahead and just wears the short sleeve, the polo shirt.
Now that he can, yeah, absolutely.
Gary was in the suit, man, and Gary and I, we're a lot alike in that respect because Gary can sweat. There's a few of those coaches that can sweat.
Sean Miller, Bruce Pearl, Buzz Williams, who is of that three.
And Buzz still will occasionally wear.
Coach.
He'll still wear a suit from time to time.
A three-piece.
Yeah. With the vest.
He doesn't play around.
Right.
He'll sweat through all three of those pieces.
No, but thank you. I appreciate it. I just it was a little chilly outside. And I was like, hey, I hadn't worn that in a while. And I'm now hoping that my wife and or daughters may know that I wore it and go, oh, good, you did wear one of those things we got you. So, I got this.
Killing two birds with one stone on this one.
Last year.
It's a great
I don't wear a lot of. I like sweaters, but I don't wear a lot of sweaters.
I just don't own
I'm a quarter zip guy, and I've been a quarter zip guy since quarter zips. I'm a big fan.
You're on board.
I got a ton of them, and my I think that's one of the reasons I don't get them anymore.
It's because you own so many.
I think they got me so many that they're like, yeah, we're not getting you anymore. So now they give me sweaters.
You open up your closet and it's just all exclusively quarter zips.
I do. I do have a lot of them, for real. Yeah, I do.
I like 3 pairs.
And I got like probably 15. I got a lot. I'm a fan. Anyway, all right, there's enough there. There's our industrialization in men's fashion segment, as Hans Gruber would have said.
And I say that as somebody who is wearing socks with sandals right now.
But
I'm an expert on the whole fashion thing.
As Hans also said in that same scene, unfortunately, work must intrude. So we'll get into it. We got a lot to get to around the Gamecock basketball teams, plural. We'll certainly spend a lot of time on the men's performance last night, which was good enough to win the basketball game and bad enough to lose the basketball game. And you all know which one it was. Disappointing is what I say. In fact, on my notes, I call it damaging, and on my tweet, did I use the word discouraging? I think is what I used. Elijah, do you remember? I don't have my tweet pulled up in front of me for how I set up our show today. I think I used the word discouraging, but I'll double check that. Brad Mueller will join us coming up in about an hour's time. He is in Tuscaloosa ahead of tonight's Carolina-Alabama women's basketball game. We'll get into that for you. Another nice award for Lenoris, this time voted upon by fans of college football. So we'll do that. We'll spend time in a different part of the show as well, but as we just kind of jump around with topics to kind of get things going today, the Deion to the Dallas Cowboys story is gaining traction. It's not being reported that it's going to happen. There hasn't even been an official interview yet. Robert Saleh is going to interview for the Cowboy job. I think that's the only one I've seen that's
interesting.
Official. Yeah. And now I see that Jason Witten could be in the mix with Jera. Jason Witten coaches some high school in the greater Dallas area. And look, I got
the same thing as coaching the Cowboys.
I got friends that coach high school football that I know are really good football coaches. I don't know that makes would Eric Kimry be a great coach right now for the Dallas Cowboys?
No.
It's not about the football.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, it's not about the football.
Well, especially at a place like the Cowboys where it's more than just
it's about Jerry
coaching the football.
Yeah, it's about Jerry and what Jerry wants and how you operate under his umbrella. But Ed Werder, who has covered the Cowboys most of his career, mostly with ESPN. Now he's working for a television station in Dallas after the Mouse let him go. reported that today, and it was great. I told Elijah I had the Dan Patrick program on for a little bit this morning, and somewhere in the 10 o'clock hour, Dan's just like, oh, here's a tweet from Ed Werder. I'm paraphrasing now, like, this Deion thing could be going somewhere, says Ed. And so Dan says, Todd Fritz, see if you can get Ed Werder. And around 11:15, they had Ed Werder. And there was Ed going, well, Dan, I think there's something to this. Now, many of you probably know. I mean, of course, most of you do know that Deion spent 5 seasons as a Cowboy and did win one of the Super Bowls with the Cowboys of the 3 that they won in the 90s. But he lives in Dallas. Well, now he lives in Boulder. But, I mean, once he became a Cowboy, the Sanders family made their home in Dallas. The boys grew up in Dallas. Until he moved to Jackson State, they lived in Dallas. They still has a home in Dallas. So for the 30 years-ish, the Dallas Metroplex has been home. They know each other well, do Jerry and Deion. It makes a lot of sense. And on the other hand, it makes almost no sense. So and if Jerry flips that coin, I don't know which one comes up. I did throw out a poll question for you guys today. Actually, I've done it. We have one that's still running about the uniform. But just a little while ago for Yucks, because there's a second story about Bill Belichick that I'll tell you, then I'll get to the poll question. So Jonathan Jones, who used to work for the Observer covering the Panthers and now covers the entire NFL for CBS Sports, but Jonathan is still based in Charlotte. He went to the University of North Carolina. He wrote for the Daily Tar Heel. He knows people up there well. He put out a story today that said his sources in Chapel Hill tell him that Bill Belichick's contract has not yet been signed. Now, that's not uncommon. Let me say that much, too, because I think some people want to go, wait, he had a press conference and everything. He's hiring coaches. How does he not have a contract? You can often operate under a memorandum of understanding or some such, and your agent/attorney and the school's attorneys will still hammer out all the minutia of the contract. But you basically got the parameters in place. But apparently the big contract, according to Jonathan's sources, is not yet signed. And this is the second story in about a week. Florio had one last week at Pro Football Talk that was suggesting the same thing, and that the folks in Chapel Hill were kind of nervous about this. Does Bill Belichick – listen, the answer is yes when the question is, does Bill Belichick want to coach in the NFL again? The answer is yes. Does he want to coach in the NFL today?
How much time coaching does he have?
What is he, 72?
72.
He's in good health. I don't know. Does he want to break Don Shula's record? I think he does. But as we've talked about a bunch, and when I say we, I mean those of us who just talk about sports, not necessarily Elijah and me and those of you in our audience. He's got a great agent who is well-connected across all 32 teams. Any of y'all that are going to have an opening want my guy?
He's won 6 Super Bowls. You may have heard him.
Nah, but thanks for calling. How's he doing, by the way? I love him on the Manning cast. He's been great. But sure you don't want him for your vacancy next season? Yeah, no, probably not. But again, thanks. And tell him we said hey. It's all right, going to Chapel Hill. And then all of a sudden, maybe somebody, Mark Davis, Tom Brady, is like, hey, who would be good for us? Bill Belichick. So does he want it? I don't know. So with that in mind, and with Jonathan's reporting, I would believe being accurate because he's very good at what he does, I threw this out for you guys. Most likely scenario for Deion Sanders and Bill Belichick by the start of the 2025 season. A, Deion in college football, Bill in the NFL. B, Deion in the NFL, Bill in college football. C, both in college. D, both in the NFL. And this is not one of those where we have like a runaway number at this point. Now, there is one that is out front, but not by a lot. So I'll let y'all vote for a little bit. I'll come tell you. This one's only going to run through the end of the program. So I'm not going to give results right now. I'd love you to go to J. Phillips 1075, 1L, J. Phillips 1075, and vote on this one. I might urge our social media team, if I can find out who's in charge.
Yeah, who's in charge over here?
to retweet that one on the station feed as well, just to make it even more accessible.
That way you can find either one.
But hit us up with that. Still got the uniform one running, by the way, too. That's going to run through tomorrow's program. How often would you like to see the 1980s throwback? Every game, 3 to 5 games, once a season, or never again. By the way, since we've first put that one out and never again was hovering at just over 2%, it's now up to 5.5%.
Disgusting.
So you know what? Boo.
Yeah, disgusting.
Usually I don't boo anybody that wants to vote on the poll. I appreciate those who participate, but I'm booing you if you say never again. If you say once a season, that's fine.
Like for you to at least identify yourself.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So we got 2 polls running. We'll come back on the other side. We'll get into some hoops. Elijah will break it down. There's really one factor above any other as to why South Carolina lost last night's game. And we'll begin now. Look, there's 14 games left. So, you're not dead in the water. But my goodness.
It's bleak.
It is.
And bleak is probably the only word I can use to describe that.
There's another, and I forget the guy's name now, but my buddy Greg Gaston will repost it, retweet it from time to time. There's a guy who every week does like a whiteboard of like sort of his own bracketology bubble watch, but it's on a whiteboard, and it has like definitely in, feeling good, on the bubble, in the discussion. Those are like the 4 categories. 15 schools of the Southeastern Conference are listed.
I think I can take a guess at which one is.
And that hurt. Even Arkansas is still discussed. That's DISCUSSED.
They are in a state of disgust over how their conference season has gone. But you know why they're in the position they are to still be in the discussion? Because they beat Michigan. Yeah. They've got a really good win on their hands.
And again, Carolina's win over Clemson is good, but the Carolina lost to North Florida. And even if you hadn't lost to North Florida and you're 0-4 right now, it's better. It's better. Yeah. Because your net ranking is probably about 15 spots higher. It's just a drag, man.
You're the only team in the conference with a quad 3 or quad 4 loss.
So we'll get into all of those things for you. Again, Brad coming up top of the 4. We do have some college football playoff news to get to that does not involve the game itself, but perhaps its future. So we'll touch on all those things for you, too. And Elijah is going to, a little bit later on, take a look at some of the worst losses by national champions in the season in which they won the title. Not like ever. Not like... Big State U won a title, but, 30 years prior, they lost by 90.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
Not like that.
No.
In the season that they won the championship. We got all that and more for you. 803-404-6100. It's the Thursday postgame show. Let me tell you about our friends at the Joint Chiropractic Centers. Yeah, the motto, I love it. You don't have to feel bad to feel better. They just want to help you maintain a healthy body all the time, improve your overall health. It's affordable. It's convenient. There are a lot of locations, not only here in Columbia, but really all across the beautiful United States of America. Here locally, Janet and Bob Keene have been doing this for a long time as the local owners. They're heavily involved in the community, and they're heavily involved in the lives of their patients. They want to make sure they're feeling better. If you travel out of town, Joint Chiropractic Centers, again, are all across the country. Work, sports, vacation, whatever the needs. If you are in the system, then a chiropractor can see you anywhere across the country and know exactly what's going on. The Joint is FSA and HSA approved Monday through Friday, 10 to 7, Saturday, 10 to 4. You never need an appointment. You never have to worry about insurance. Harbison, Forest Drive, Roberts Branch, Sunset Boulevard, the locations here in town. Check them out. Tell them we sent you to The Joint. Welcome back into the postgame show here on this Thursday afternoon. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Appreciate you being with us. Brad Mueller coming up in just a little bit. Gamecocks at Alabama tonight. By the way, speaking of women's basketball, it was announced today that the first women's game day program will be here in Columbia next week for the LSU game.
Yep, I feel like that is every year that South Carolina and LSU play, which will be every year, that game will be a game day game.
Yeah.
Every year.
Yeah, for at least for the foreseeable future, right?
Was last year.
Right.
And their one meeting, and it will be this year in their one meeting. Regular season meeting, let me clarify.
And they were here 2 years ago.
They were, that's right.
Yeah, because we did
Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, we did a pregame show. It was kind of wet and cold.
It was. It was a wet and cold day.
Yeah.
I was in attendance.
Yeah, but that was fun
game.
Not so fun last night for the Carolina men's basketball team. Listen, they played well enough to win, which is ironic when I sit here and tell you that they played poorly enough to lose and that they lost the game. You might say, well, Jay, you can't have it both ways. They did enough, except for one major thing, and that was they turned the bleeping ball over just way too often last night. 66-63. Virtually the same score as the other day against the best team in the conference. South Carolina last night shot better than 42% from the floor. That's good. They shot even better than that, 43.8% from three last night, and shot a decent amount of them.
In a road game.
Yeah. They held Vandy to 19% from three. South Carolina made their foul shots. South Carolina had 37 rebounds to Vanderbilt's 25. South Carolina, I mean, they both had about the same number of assists. The difference is that Vanderbilt turned the ball over 12 times, and South Carolina turned the ball over 25 times. And some of them were just incredibly careless. Like, where you're passing the ball. And I know it had to drive Lamont just absolutely crazy last night. But, for Carolina to come back, they were down 7 at the break. They were down 7 for a long stretch of the second half. They came back and tied the ball game up when it was in the high 50, I think 58 all, right? Mm-hmm. And they had their chances. And even that late, shot clock violation, like, you got to get the shot off. You got to the awareness. And again, that'll drive Lamont up the bleeping wall because he tells them, because there was a stoppage there. They knew how much time was left.
Yeah, it was an inbound play.
Yeah, I mean,
out of bounds underneath play.
You've got to get the shot off, and they did. But
blocked.
So let's, before we talk a lot more about it from our perspective, cut 4, please, sir. This is Lamont and his assessment.
Very, very tough loss to swallow. I mean, and particularly when you had, and that was my message at halftime, was that with 16 turnovers, God forbid we have a chance. The basketball god shined on us to make the game only a 7-point game at halftime, guys. Whoa. I'm not even sure if we deserved that, but that's what we got. So we come out in the second half only to turn it over, cut it all the way down to 9 turnovers in the second half for a total of 25. You can't do that. You can't play basketball and win that way. You can't have 2 guys that have 5 turnovers. Yeah. We scored 37 points in the second half on minus the 9 turnovers. So you're getting what you want. At the end of the game, we didn't. We had the ball point blank right around the rim twice and didn't get anything out of it. But,
Yeah, at the under 8, South Carolina was still down 7. I was looking here to make sure I was right about that. Yeah, at the under 8, they were still down 7 points, 56-49. Got it to 56 all, got it to 58 all, and did they tie it again, Elijah? Got it to 61 all and 63 all, and then did not score again. They played well enough to win, but these growing pains are now turning into something far more detrimental to this team, and that's why I call it a discouraging loss, a disappointing loss, a damaging loss. We didn't hold out a lot of hope. You, me, a lot of fans we've spoken with, some that have covered the team, to say, oh, well, listen, we talked to John Whittle the other day. Hey, if you can find a way to get 8 or 9 conference wins, I'm not finding that path. And even then, I think it's still very much an uphill climb. I'm of the opinion that you probably need to get 10 conference wins. Well, now you got 14. You got to go 10-4 the rest of the way. And you still got Tennessee. You still got Florida. You still got some tough road games. You still got Kentucky. Georgia is much improved. I'm not seeing that path. No. At this point in time. And I mentioned on a tweet that I threw out last night, any opportunity for postseason play. I understand that fans around here, because of the history, don't want to go to the NIT. A lot of schools don't want to go to the NIT, but it's better than not going anywhere. And I'm not sure at this point that you have that. And I would hope, I don't know, I would hope that Lamont and Jeremiah would get together and not go to the one that that they play in some high school gym somewhere.
Right.
No,
you don't want any part of that. That one won't do you any good.
No. So, again, there's irony in last night's loss. You did enough on the road in a difficult place to play. Not always the most harsh environment, but the building itself.
It's the most unique building you're going to play in this year.
And you found a way to lose. Is kind of how I look at it.
This is to kind of give you an idea of how rare it is to lose when you dominate a lot of other assets of the game. Like in the book Basketball on Paper, Dean Oliver, who's considered basically the godfather of basketball analytics, broke the game down into 4 factors. Like in a study on how teams win basketball games, he divvied it into 4 factors. That is your effective field goal shooting, turnover rate, offensive rebound percentage, free throw rate. And he kind of weighted them out too, right? So if you win the effective field goal percentage battle, you're going to win the game 40% of the time. If you win the turnover battle, 25%. Offensive rebounding, 20. Free throw rate, 15. So last night, effective field goal shooting, which is a combination of like your 2 and 3 point shooting that weighs, it's a percentage that weighs that threes are obviously worth more than 2, right? South Carolina, 50%. Vanderbilt, 44.6%. Offensive rebound percentage, South Carolina grabbed 37% of their misses. Vanderbilt only 29% of their misses. You win that one too. Free throw rate was 51.1. Vanderbilt was 37.5. That is a number in terms of free throws per field goal attempted, right? It's the rate in which you get to the free throw line. South Carolina won that with ease. Turnover rate. South Carolina turned the ball over on 35.7% of their possessions.
Gross.
35% of the possessions resulted in a turnover. Vanderbilt's was only 17.1. So if you won 3 of those 4 categories, you should, in theory, win the game 75% of the time. You did that on the road and still lost. Right. That is the discouraging part.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I watching it, Lamont's right in what he said there too. Like, guys, we're only down single digits here. The way we're turning the ball over, if they were scored on every one of our turnovers, we should be losing by 20 points. He didn't say it that way, but that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But that should have been, you should have been getting your butt kicked.
The season high that South Carolina had in turnovers in a game this year was 15. They had 16 at the half and were only down 7, was down 4 until Vanderbilt made a 3, until Jason Edwards made a 3 right before the end of the half. And I think the real frustrating thing, too, is, Jay, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at Vanderbilt and know that their entire defensive identity is based on forcing turnovers.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to take care and value the basketball when you go there, and it still blew up in your face in magnificent fashion. Like that's another tough one, too.
And Lamont's telling on that, too. Cut number 8, please. Here's Lamont on the turnover situation and what they were talking about.
But, you can't turn the ball over like that. I think we just have to go back to the drawing board on and 15 of them were just steals. So I think we have to go back to the drawing board on once you beat your man practicing, someone from behind smacking down at the ball really hard and then still keeping the ball to go up to the rim, because I'd say the vast majority of them ended up that way. So that'll be on us as coaches to go back and really practice being really strong with the ball.
It was hard to watch at times. I was like, man, there's another one. And I didn't even think about the percentage. I mean, I knew it was a lot when you have more than double the number that your opponent had, but to think that it's more than a third of your possessions, you turned the ball over and still only lost by 3 on the road in a conference game.
Yeah, that's how you squander a good defensive game, because I know some people on Twitter were kind of upset by the defense, and situationally there were some lapses, but that's kind of, and Lamont said it last night too, that's baked into every game and into every result.
Yeah.
But you held Vanderbilt at home to less than a point per possession.
Mm-hmm. You
played good defense. You shot 40+% from 3. You got to the line 23 times.
Yeah.
In theory, that should win you the game.
Yeah. You again, ironically, you played well enough to win and found a way to lose. More from Lamont on the short-term future when the postgame show returns. Speaking of Pro Swing, you're going to love the AV in there because it was done by Integrated Media. See what I did there? They run them both, man. Listen, you're ready to watch everything you watch better than ever. It's time to call Integrated Media. They make house calls. You heard me right. They make house calls. Beautiful state-of-the-art HD TVs. If your wall can hold it, Integrated Media can put it in from a size perspective. Amazing sound, Dolby Atmos sound in the walls, in the ceilings, or from the Sonos wireless systems that you can pick up and move around. Upgrade your Wi-Fi for those of you who are now streaming all of your entertainment, or you're gaming, or you're still working from home. Then they can make sure that you have professional-grade Wi-Fi that is built for the home consumer. It's really that simple. Outdoor systems as well. I love what they've done for me. I have for years. I know you will too. 803-948-8327. Brighten the new year with Integrated Media. Talking Carolina basketball after a disappointing 66-63 loss in Nashville last night. Carolina gets back at it this weekend. They're now 10-7, 0-4 in conference play, and they will be at Oklahoma for a 4 p.m. Eastern time tip. Again, another game that I think is winnable. Oklahoma's
It's certainly winnable.
They're good. But
That's the desperation bowl.
It's about the same
SEC teams.
About the same computer percentage to go beat Oklahoma as Carolina had to win last night. But I think Elijah was far more in tune with it with the EBPI than the real computers were. Not that he doesn't have a real computer up there between those ears. But
there's something up
you were like 55-45. And again, Carolina, I mean, you played well enough to win. You played well enough to win. You did all but one thing right. But the one thing you did wrong, you did real wrong. And you just never recovered from it.
Yeah, I think you
almost recovered from it, and then you didn't.
I mean, they had a really good look with 0.6 of a second. I mean, you actually ended up getting a really
you
good
got the look
for three, and it almost went in.
Yeah,
but
kind of like Auburn. I mean, that was a 40-foot look, but you got
an open one.
You got a look.
Yeah, which is all you can ask for in that situation. But the EBPI, when calculating all of this, kind of baked in 15 turnovers, just because, like Vanderbilt, to their credit, that's what they do.
Well, you pointed that out yesterday.
Yeah.
They were top 20 in the nation in both forcing turnovers and not turning the ball over.
They win that battle a lot.
Yeah.
And there were, going back and watching watching a lot of the turnovers that happened last night, some of that was Vanderbilt force. Some of that was playing really well in a ball screen and deflecting a pocket pass. And some of it is fundamental stuff, kind of like the pocket pass itself. I mean, Morris had an attempt to, on a ball screen, drop a little pocket pass to Nick Pringle going into the lane. And instead of the ball bouncing and going into Nick's hands, the ball bounces about an inch away from Nick's right shoe. And you're not catching that cleanly. He didn't, and the ball goes out of bounds. It's a turnover. So there was a lot of fundamental stuff, along with Vanderbilt playing passing lanes really well. That's like the one thing they do. And I kind of baked in when I'm thinking of, like what percentage chance South Carolina has to win this game. I factor in that they're going to turn the ball over maybe a little more than usual. 15 would have been the season high. So, I mean, if we just do the math, like, instead of 25 turnovers, if you have 15, which, again, your season high and still a good chunk of turnovers in a game, and you're scoring at 0.9 points per possession, which they were, you take those 10 possessions that you actually get a shot off, and say you score at that same rate, you score 9 more points. What is 63 plus 9, Jay Phillips?
Yeah, that's going to be 72, and you're going to win the game.
You're going to win the game by 6 points.
Yep.
So, I mean, even on an off, night in terms of point per possession, you still would have won the game if you just take away 10 turnovers at the rate in which you were scoring in that game.
Which one do I want to do here? I think I want to get 2 more in. First, I'm going to dwell upon last night, and then we'll look ahead. Number 6, please. Again, further assessment from Lamont Paris on how he thought his team played.
Yeah, well, we got some touches in there. They stripped the ball. I've never seen so many clean strips in my entire life. That's just a factual statement. So I don't think I can get in trouble for saying that. I've never seen so many clean strips in my whole life. I've been doing this for a long time. I've just never been on a team. Now, I've also never seen 25 turnovers, I don't think, that we did. So, but we got the ball around there. It was, a lot of activity. They fronted. They fronted, and then we would flash high, and we weren't competitive. I just don't think we competed to get a catch. That's why we got bogged down with some of the plays that we wanted to run to get the ball inside. Start off with a catch on the wing, and we couldn't get a catch on the wing. They ran through a couple of them for layups, trying to get a catch on the wing. So we started going to other stuff that didn't involve a catch on the wing, and it just was, they outcompeted us. They were more active than us. I just thought they were. They just were significantly more active than us, and then we didn't play well. I mean, we just so many turnovers. I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time getting over how many times we turned the ball over. It's more than a third of the time that we got the ball, we turned it right back over. That's bananas.
Yeah.
Control the controllables. You hear that from coaches in every sport at every level all the time. Control the controllables. And you heard a couple of things in there that clearly Lamont is frustrated by because South Carolina didn't. And you've got one more stat that adds to, I guess, his levels of frustration. Not that he...
Yeah, not that he needs more of them, but this is kind of just a microcosm as to what's happened offensively this year. Jay Phillips, there are 364 teams in Division I that play college basketball.
All right.
South Carolina ranks 351st in block percentage on offense. 13.1% of their shots get blocked. Those oftentimes do result in the other team getting the ball, almost like it being a live ball turnover, but you get a shot off. You rank 331st in steal percentage, meaning 11.7% of your possessions are stolen by the other team. So he talks about frustration of not being strong with the ball, not meeting a pass. He alluded to, kind of a play where Jacoby Wright's throwing the ball, making an entry pass past half court, and the ball gets picked off, and there's something you can do about that. You probably don't make that pass against a team like Vanderbilt, who is on the prowl in the passing lanes, waiting for you to make that pass. And B, the receiver of the pass has a duty to jump towards the pass.
Yeah,
it's a fundamental part of basketball. The pass comes to you, you have to go meet the pass, because if you don't, it's getting picked off and it's going the other way. It's a pick six, just like in football, right? And they rank really low in both of those categories. One, the block percentage being 351st, which is astonishing to me. And if you want to talk about how much that's kind of like peered its eerie head this year, if you look at South Carolina's opponents and where they rank in terms of forcing turnovers, you still have about 4 games, I believe it is 4 games, against teams that are in the top 50 in defensive turnover rate, still to play this year.
All right. So on that note, we've given you some negatives, and Elijah just gave you that in terms of what's still coming your way. But reason to keep your head up. Cut number 10, please, sir. Here's Lamont on that message.
Well, I mean, we have been about and are about growth and improvement. So, we have seen some things over the last couple of games that represent growth and improvement, particularly in the Auburn game. And then, today I think we went backwards a little bit, just in terms of, again, the turnovers is really what really stands out to me. Now, we didn't guard the ball. They undressed us a couple times and got straight to the rim, but there's enough of that. There's some of that that's already calculated. It's baked into this equation for winning a basketball game, and so I don't think it was an inordinate amount of that. What's not built into that equation is 25 turnovers. It's just not. And again, so I think we went backwards a little bit that way, but I'm always optimistic. That's why I'm frustrated to some degree, only because my expectation is to play well enough to win these games. If I had a high school team, the state champs in the state of Tennessee, whoever that team is, and I was coaching them against Vanderbilt, I probably wouldn't have much frustration if we lost, because my expectation wouldn't be to perform in a way to win the game. So, yeah, I'm extremely optimistic. I mean, we're doing that without, Jamari Thomas plays the most minutes of anybody on our entire team, and he's our second leading scorer. So you have these 2 games without him, Miles Studi, so you're down 2 starters. Not that that's any sort of excuse. It's not. Guys have to play. Mo stepped up and played well offensively today. You just need more guys to be able to do that.
Again, another bit of irony is that down 2 starters in both of these games, you certainly played your best conference games. You've only played 4 conference games. But when you lost by a combined 55 points in the first 2 to lose by a combined 6 in the next 2, including against the best team in the conference and a road game, there is improvement. There is. Mm-hmm. What does that look like moving forward? That's going to be the big thing. We'll have more on the basketball team throughout the course of the afternoon. We'll update the poll questions. We got 2 of them running for you when the postgame show returns. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of our first hour. Jay and Elijah with you. Coming up top of the hour, our good friend Brad Muller, the voice of Carolina women's basketball, will join us. He is in Tuscaloosa. Gamecocks and the Tide will tip off 7 o'clock. So Brad will be on at 6:30. Am I right about that?
That would be correct.
Just making sure. That's on 98.5 WOMG. And then tonight, right after we're done, Lamont and Derek with Carolina Calls. Again, go beat Oklahoma and
not impossible.
And try to feel better about yourself. You got to look yourself in the mirror if you're some of these players and go, guys, or again, if I'm looking at myself, you did enough to beat a really good team the other day, and you didn't quite get there. You did more than enough to beat a team that's not nearly as good. You got to go do what you're not doing. These are fine margins. Now, again, first 2 losses combined 55 points. Next 2 losses combined 6 points. That's a stark contrast for the first 4 games of the season.
And that's kind of
and down
too.
2 starters.
Yeah, for those last 2.
In those last 2 games.
I think there's something like offensively. Well, not even offensively. Defensively, I think they've done well in terms of bouncing back from those 2 injuries. I think Jamari and Miles are 2 of your better on-ball defenders. And defensively, the team is still fine. You're top 50 defensive unit in terms of defensive efficiency. The problem is you rank 122 in offense.
Yeah.
And then when you go to look at the conference play numbers, you are dead last, averaging less than 0.9 points per possession, which is
it's not going to get it done long term, no question.
And then, for in terms of just sloppiness, like for the entire 4-game stretch, you're dead last in turnovers with almost 25% of your possessions being turnovers. It's a lot of it is just sometimes I don't know if it's mental mistakes or just fundamentally you don't have it as a passing team.
Maybe a little bit of both.
And it might be a little bit of both.
I think it's a little bit of both. A couple of poll questions running, the one we've had running all week, and we'll actually let run through tomorrow's program as we look ahead to the 2025 Gamecock football season. How often would you like to see the 1980-style uniforms worn? Because they are sweet.
Sexy.
A, every game. B, 3 to 5 games a year, which, again, is some. You can just, it doesn't have to be 3, 4, or 5. It could be
a handful.
Yeah. C, once a season. D, never again. I think now some people are just messing with us with the never again, or they're not Carolina fans. Now up to 7.3% for never again. No, there's no way that.
Well, 7.3% of your voting populace here is wrong.
Yeah, there's no way that many people actually believe it. 43.7 say once a season, 30.8 3 to 5 games, 18.2 every game, and again 7.3 never again. You're no.
Wrong.
Yeah. Sorry, but you are.
The question that supposedly had no wrong answer, but there is a wrong answer.
Yeah, there is a wrong.
Joke's on you.
Yeah.
It's that one.
There is a wrong answer.
7% of you have failed.
That's right. And then the other poll question that stems from 2 stories today by very reputable reporters. Most likely scenario for Deion Sanders and Bill Belichick by the start of the 2025 season. A, Deion in college, Bill in the NFL. B, Deion in the NFL, Bill in college. C, both in college. D, both in the NFL. Right now, 34.6 believe both will be in college. 27.7 say Deion in the NFL and Bill in college. 25.8% both in the NFL. 11.9 Deion in college, Bill in the NFL. Now, again, the stories, Ed Werder, formerly of ESPN, covering the Cowboys, now working for a local station in Dallas, still covering the Cowboys and very well connected, said that there is traction on the Deion to the Dallas Cowboys story with Deion being the head coach. There is traction, that it is, there is mutual interest. And Ed even reporting that some around Deion are urging him to pursue the job. Not just take it if it's offered, but to pursue it. The second story about Bill Belichick is Jonathan Jones, who used to be on the Panthers beat for the Observer, now covers the entire NFL, but he's still based in Charlotte. And he went to North Carolina. He wrote for the Daily Tar Heel. He's very well connected in Chapel Hill and around the league. And he reported today at CBS that Bill Belichick's contract remains unsigned, despite the fact that they've named a few more staffers, they've done some portal recruiting and things like that, that the contract remains unsigned, and that one of the reasons is that they may be trying to find a legal loophole to not pay that $10 million buyout before June. That if he doesn't sign it, can they hold him to it? That's where you get lawyers involved. And does Bill say, "Listen, I'll give you $3 million"?
I throw you a bone.
You know, I think they'd go after him for the whole 10 at this point because
As
now,
they should.
Yeah, now who you getting? I don't think he's going to do that to them.
Well, he did take the Patriots job after his press conference with the New York Jets and kind of did them dirty.
In a day, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Brad Mueller on the other side. Carolina at Alabama tonight. This is the postgame show.
Oh, man, we have a massive slate of playoff games this week in professional football, or this weekend, and I am more than excited to open up my phone, tap on the Prize Picks app, and get myself in on this action. Look, I'm scrolling through it right now, and I am salivating over 250.5 passing yards for Patrick Mahomes. Going less. Houston's got a really stingy defense. So I think he throws less. I still think Kansas City wins. I think they'll have no problem. But he'll throw for less than 250.5 passing yards. And you know what? I'm going to go more on Lamar Jackson passing touchdowns at 1.5. Have a really good feeling the Ravens passing game is going to do well in that one. But you can download the app today too. Have the fun along with me, because all you got to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players on different teams and their stat projections, and you can possibly win up to 100 times your cash. So enjoy the playoffs like never before. Download Prize Picks, use promo code 1075GAME, and get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
4 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome back in. It's the Postgame Show. Second hour underway from the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. We appreciate you being with us. Got Carolina calls tonight with Coach Paris. That's right after we're done. Brad Muller on the call tonight, 6:30 on 98.5 FM as the Gamecocks take on Alabama in women's basketball. And joining us from Tuscaloosa right now is the voice of Carolina Women's Hoops. He is Mr. Muller. How are you, sir? How are things in Tuscaloosa?
And it's great here. Yeah, it's not too cold. I guess in preparation for maybe a snowmageddon, next week, like we're all anticipating. But no, it's very pleasant.
Snowmageddon. What's the pregame meal like? I mean, do you get to partake in the pregame meal?
Oh, yeah.
Is it Dreamland Barbecue when you go to Tuscaloosa? How's that work?
No, well, no, I wish, but I don't know if that would sit well running up and down the floor. The pregame meal menu is usually the same kind of thing. There's usually a choice of pasta, chicken, or steak, or somewhere thereabouts. And that's usually the same every pregame, 4 hours before tip-off. So
Sure.
we've already had our pregame meal, now just letting it settle.
Do you remember, one other question on this, do you remember a few years, how long, well, let me put it like this. How long has the women's team been playing in Coleman? Because I remember some games not too long ago. They were in like another facility, and at least watching on television, I told Elijah, you got vertigo because the camera angle was like pointing straight down on the floor, and it was a literal difficult watch.
Yeah, they've been back at Coleman for almost, I want to say 8 or 9 years now, but I think it was from 2011 to 2016. They were at the volleyball facility. I forget the name of it, but yeah, it was tiny. It was awful. You couldn't fit anybody in there. It was an awful place to play basketball. When I first started here, when we played Alabama, we played at Coleman, and then a few years later, I guess they were. I don't know why they moved them. They moved them for about 5 years, and then they moved them back, and the women have been back in Coleman for I want to say 8 or 9 years now. But yeah, the old place, the volleyball facility that played in was tiny, and it was ridiculous for basketball, and it was. Yeah, it was weird because the people had to sit where they sat up was like 10 feet above the floor level was the first row, and so you just felt like the walls were closing in on you. Yeah, it was a weird place to play basketball.
Yeah, well, I'd never been in there physically, but watching on television, I do remember that, and I was like, this is awful. I told Elijah I needed a Dramamine when I was watching this. Life without Ashlyn is certainly okay for this team at this point. We didn't really believe otherwise, but they've now got a couple of games under their belt. They really took care of a very good Texas team the other day. It was a different kind of game. I mean, Texas played pretty well. Carolina's just better than them. Your assessment of how this team is handling the change and the adversity.
Yeah, I think so far so good because what you've seen is you've seen players who are already regularly playing, not just talking about people that were, going to get Ashlyn's minutes, but people who are already playing starters have been playing better as if to say they're going to help take up the slack and, they can't just, wait for the cavalry, wait for the bench to come in and, continue to do the job. So I think you saw that especially in the last game where Sanaya Fagan, who's been the starter all year in the post for the Gamecocks, I think she got off to a slow start this year. She for her whole career was playing behind All-Americans and Aaliyah Boston and Camila Cardoso, but she had always shown that she could be a really good player. She's very good underneath the basket. And then, there was a lot of games this year where you just didn't see much of her, but you're starting to see that now, and maybe that more sense of urgency, like she realized, hey, I have to do more because I don't have that help coming off the bench like we had. When Ashlyn was the first one off the bench. So I really like what I saw from her against Texas. She's undersized compared to some of the post she plays, because she's only 6'3", but she was going up against, 6'4" and 6'6" the other day against Texas and was, played great. Had, I think 8 points, 8 rebounds, a career high 6 blocks, and just had a lot more energy. So that was one of the things that stood out to me was the starter in the post really picked things up. We saw it the game before where Joyce Edwards came off the bench and played really well, had a double-double, but it was just great to see, some of the starters really pick up some of that slack that was missing.
Yeah, and we talk about, with the Ashland injury, how are they going to handle the defensive side of the ball in the post area? But it's a team effort when you kind of shut Texas down the way they do. I mean, I'm looking, on Bart Torvik right now. I'm looking at a number that says 28.5 for effective field goal shooting, and it's comical. But I think the one thing that kind of gets lost in this is Bree Hall guarded Madison Booker, All-American player for Texas, for most of that game, and Madison Booker was 3 for 19. I think missed her first, 15 shots? Bree did a phenomenal job on Madison Booker, and I think Bree's one of the more unsung heroes of this team the last few years because of how good she is on the ball.
And that's kind of been her calling card, even when she was a freshman, because when she would come off the bench, she would replace Bree Beal, who was our defensive stopper back then, and that kind of became her thing, that she was the defender off the bench. And, yeah, she did a great job on Booker, made her uncomfortable most of the night, and I think we did a great job on their point guard as well, not allowing her to get to make entry passes to people in good positions to shoot. I think the other part of it, and I think Coach Staley alluded to this as well as South Carolina played defensively, Texas may have been a little off. It certainly wasn't their night. You looked at the end of the first quarter, I think they had 3 times as many shots as South Carolina did from the floor, but South Carolina still had a lead. They were missing a lot of shots they normally make, and that's not to discredit the effort the defense did. I think it was a combination of all those things. I thought the defense was fantastic and relentless. It didn't stop for 40 minutes, and maybe that wearing them down also affected the shooting as well, because they missed some very makeable shots, especially inside with their big 6'6" girl who was getting all of her own misses on rebounds. But the Gamecocks did a great job of just never letting them get on a run, and that's the key when you to a good defense, because basketball is normally a game of runs. Everybody's going to have an 8-0 run or a 10-0 run or whatever at some point in a game, and then you just try to weather that. Well, Texas never had that. They never had a run of I think more than 6 points at all, in 40 minutes of basketball, and that was just how relentless South Carolina played defensively.
Talking to Brad Muller, Carolina, Alabama women's basketball tonight at 7 again here in Columbia on 98.5 FM. Brad will be on the call starting at 6:30, 7 o'clock tip. Scout the Tide for us, Brad, and going over some of their stats. They get assists on a lot of their buckets. They score a lot of points, at least for the season. And I know a lot of this is in non-con play. They score the ball pretty effectively, shooting around 47% from the floor. What kind of team is this in comparison to some of the opponents Carolina's already seen this year?
It's a good team. I mean, they're 16-2, 3-1 in the SEC, and it's where they've kind of been the last few years under Christy Curry, where they're going to win 23, 24 games a year, get to maybe the second round of the tournament, and they do have a little bit of size inside with Essence Cody, who's a 6'4" post, but they get a lot of shooting from the perimeter with their guards. Right now the one question mark is Sarah Ashley Barker, who's questionable for tonight. She's missed the last couple of games as their leading scorer, averaging 16 points a game. She was first team All SEC last year, and she's just a good all-around guard to have on the floor. She's a big guard. Most of their guards are big, 6 foot, 6'2", but even in her absence, they've got 2 other guards that can fill it up. Zay Green is a transfer from Arkansas Pine Bluff. Well, one of several schools she's transferred from. She's averaging 17 points a game. Shoots it really well. They shoot and make a lot of threes. I think they're second in three-point shooting in the SEC and third in three-pointers made. They're averaging 9 threes a game. In addition to Green, you got Olia Nye, who's a transfer a few years ago from Illinois, who can really fill it up. She averages 15 points a game, and she leads the SEC in three-pointers made. She's second in three-point shooting percentage. Last year she set an Alabama record in three-pointers. I think she had 108 three-pointers last year, and she's on pace to break that again. She's got 65 right now, and again, shoots 45% from three-point range. So it's
scored 32 points her last time out, Brad.
Yeah. She's got 2 30-point games this year, and she's got, I think, 3 games where she's hit 7 or more three-pointers in a game. So I think Coach will probably tell us in the pregame, you got to let them two us to death and not let them three you to death, right? Because if you leave Zay Green and Aaliyah Nye open, they're going to fill it up.
And then, of course, the game on Sunday, Oklahoma. You want to talk about a team that shoots a lot of threes and plays really fast. I think that game against Tennessee they played earlier in this month would give some vertigo with the amount of times they went up and down the floor. And I think in Oklahoma right now, I'm looking at it, their tempo 78 possessions per game. That's a lot.
Yeah.
How do you see this South Carolina team playing like against that type of team?
Well, it'll be interesting with them because I think Reagan Beers, their post player who transferred from Oregon State, was questionable going into this week because she's not one you typically picture running the floor if you've ever seen her play. She's more of a half court set kind of post player. But yeah, they get up and down, and I think it's very similar. I think both these teams like to get up and down both those teams like to get up and down the floor. So that might turn into a track meet, and that's just where I think depth is going to be huge because if it's up and down like that, whoever's got the most coming off their bench that can help keep the opposing runs to a minimum is probably going to come out on top because I think both those teams are going to want to get out in transition. And South Carolina normally does a good job of wearing people down with their depth, but Oklahoma can get up and down as well. So that's going to be a fun matchup. It's fun having a team like that with a different style that you don't see from everybody, and obviously they're a top 15 team, so it's going to be another great matchup. I mean, this is right now we're in the middle. Tonight is the second of 5 straight games against ranked teams in the SEC. Kind of a gauntlet here in January in SEC play.
Yeah, Carolina has Oklahoma here at home and LSU next week. Again, game day coming next week, which, as Elijah said, has become an annual thing. And then the Gamecocks next weekend go up to Knoxville for a much improved team against Vandy or against Tennessee. Sorry, I got Vandy on the brain still from the guys.
Yeah, the state.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Thank you. I did that, and they're both on I-40. Yeah, they're both on I-40, so that's good. Brad, one last thing for you, real quick here. In terms of starting lineup, we know what kind of bench this is, and we know that Ashland was even coming off the bench a lot, but playing a lot of minutes. Are you still anticipating, or are you at all anticipating any kind of changes to what Dawn wants to do in terms of rotation, or is she liking what she's got from a chemistry standpoint, even with the loss of Ashland?
Yeah, no, it stays. I mean, throughout her career, unless there's an injury or somebody is really not doing well, she stays with the lineup, and she usually stays with experience in her starting lineup, regardless of what you have coming off the bench. Just for consistency, some people do better coming off the bench, and some of the younger players, kind of need that time to have let the game settle in, and that's just the way she does it. It's I don't anticipate a change anytime soon there.
Have a great call tonight, sir. Safe travels back home for you guys. We appreciate you. We'll talk soon.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great week.
You bet. That's our good friend Brad Muller, SC Brad92, to follow on Twitter if you don't already. And again, Carolina, Alabama, 6:30 airtime, 7 o'clock tip from Tuscaloosa here in Columbia on 98.5 FM. We'll come back on the other side, update the poll questions, get into a few football notes, including a big award for Lenore Sellers. He's doing well this week from a national perspective. What did he get this time? We'll tell you when the postgame show returns. Welcome back into the post-game show on this Thursday afternoon. Jay and Elijah with you. Looking forward to being out tomorrow at Pro Swing, the first of 3 live shows that we'll be doing at Pro Swing in the month of January. Tomorrow, the official grand opening. I do know that Connor Shaw will be amongst those participating in some indoor golfing activities tomorrow.
Oh, man. He wins a lot of events in Columbia. Rarely loses them.
That's right. So Connor's going to be there, and I think Tyler Thigpen's going to be there. Maybe some other. Be a lot of.
Very nice.
Yeah, throwing out a few invites, and a lot of you hopefully will come by, enjoy liquid refreshment, and just a good time. 200+ courses from all around the world on the Golf Zone simulator.
St. Andrews on there.
Don't
200 there has to be.
I don't think that one is. I don't know that. I don't know that they. I don't think so. There are some in England and Scotland. That's of course in Scotland, but I don't think so.
That one's my favorite.
Don't quote me on that. All right, don't quote me on that.
We'll put
Pebble Beach is on there.
Ooh, I do like Pebble Beach.
Bay Hill, Arnold Palmer's course is on there. And I know it is because I played it. And you know what I did? I stunk it up.
It ate you up. It ate you alive.
Dude, it was so hard. Even on the, I was like, God, what if I was in Orlando playing this thing?
How bad would it have
I'd
been
just
then?
be running away. Yeah, I didn't. When I played Bay Hill at the one in Chapin, at the Pro Swing in Chapin, I did not perform well. Not going to lie to you.
No.
Because I don't like to lie to people.
That would be a tough one.
Speaking of Gamecock quarterbacks like Connor Shaw, congratulations to Lenoris Sellers. I don't know much about this, but it's a thing. But there is a popular Twitter feed and website called College Football Live. They've got all kinds of what it sounds like, right?
It's college football and it is live.
And they ran a massive bracket, man, like a huge bracket, and asked their followers and fans to participate and choose their favorite college football player. And then these things, like any other bracket competition, get whittled down. And ultimately, it came down to Carolina's Lenoris Sellers against Oklahoma's Danny Stutzman. Not Diego Pavia, not DJ Lagway, not Ashton Jeanty, not Jeremiah Smith, or anybody else. It's been a lot of fun to watch this
Jeremiah
year.
Masoli. Just kidding. Yeah, decade.
But when it was all said and done, 500 players from 128 schools, and Lenoris Sellers got it done. So congratulations, Lenoris Sellers, winner of the fan vote as favorite college football player. That's pretty cool, man. Give him a golf clap for that one, Elijah Campbell. Do that for me right there. Way to go, Lenoris.
He maybe deserves more, but more of a round of applause. You can have that.
So I don't know exactly what he gets for this. And you just maybe get a plaque, you get a pat on the back, maybe you get a golf clap on a radio station in your college town. I don't know.
You know what? Let's give him 2.
Yeah, do it. Yeah. I mean, 500 players, man. 500 players. Listen,
it's a large pool.
I don't know. I don't know much about how it all went down, but congratulations. I think it's cool. And in their tweet congratulating Lenoris, College Football Live said, in a back-and-forth final and by less than 100 votes, the winner and crowned America's favorite college football player is Lenoris Sellers of South Carolina.
I think the video game probably has a lot to do with that, too.
Yeah,
dynamic.
By the way, I have seen that I don't know if they gave us a full release date, but
it's coming back.
It is coming back this summer. They will have another version coming out this summer. I wonder if EA would think about regionalized covers the way a lot of magazines do.
That would be for those who buy the hard copy of the game, yes.
Right?
And
how many hard copies are there being sold these days?
That's a really good question. When I purchased my PS5, which I had purchased solely to play the college football video game, I got the PS5 that didn't have like the disc tray.
Right.
a little cheaper. And so I have the game downloaded onto my PlayStation, so I don't have the hard copy of it. I know a lot of folks are in the same boat.
You got a big hard drive on that thing? You got to buy like those
Massive.
SD cards too?
No, I don't think I did, but I really only play one game. That's it. I downloaded NHL.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
I don't play it often, but so I have 2 games.
No shoot 'em ups, no Star Wars, no
Not
Fortnite.
yet. No, not couldn't get into Fortnite.
No.
Too bad. I've tried. I tried when I was in college. Terrible.
Right.
Not a good first-person shooter.
Yeah,
I'm awful at those.
I'm not very good at it
However,
either.
I could play Halo. I was pretty good at Halo
Okay.
back when I was like 13 years old.
Well, when I was in college, I guess they had Doom.
Oh, nice.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
That was the first person. That was fun. Weird monsters jumping out at you and jump scaring you and things like that. It was
The
okay.
jump scare games are fun.
Yeah, it was okay. I'm not a big fan of those either, though.
Oh, I love it.
Sports games. Again, we had, I think Street Fighter was fun, and we had Eternal Champions was a fighter game that was a lot of fun. But it was like exclusive to Sega Genesis, and it was fun, man. It's just like Street Fighter or any of those.
Okay. Did you ever play any of the Mario stuff like Super Smash Brothers? Because that one that was a college popular.
Yeah,
for
we
me.
played like original Mario Brothers was big, and Super Mario Brothers because that was during its heyday. And now, well, I haven't played in a while, but I do. Well, the only 2 Mario Karts I play, Mario Kart Wii and Mario Kart 8, because we got Mario Kart 8.
Skipped the whole Nintendo 64.
Yeah, we never. Well, I didn't have one, and my girls didn't have one. We had a PS3 and an original Xbox that they never played anything on. Didn't get a new Xbox, and then we've had 2 Wiis, and now 3 of my 4 daughters have a Switch.
The Switch is fun.
But I can't play it.
Don't own one. But
It's too tiny. I can't play it. It's just too small in my hand. I don't like it. I need a bigger controller.
you would have never been able to handle the PlayStation Portable.
Probably not.
For those who had one, definitely send a text on the Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100. I'm curious to how many people actually owned a PlayStation Portable, because that was fun. I used to play NCAA football on that bad boy, and buddy, I spent hours
Yeah, I believe you.
of my day before I got really bad motion sickness in a car. Now I can't read in a car. I can't look at my phone in the car. I will get sick, but
Well, you should look at your phone in the car, so that's good.
Well, I mean, like as a passenger,
I got
right?
you. Oh, even a passenger. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, even as a passenger, I can't really look at my phone. I get nauseous.
I don't want that.
But I can't read, can't really do much, in that regard. But as a kid, would sit in the back seat of my dad's Ford Explorer. I'd play that sucker all day on long road trips. It was awesome.
Well, I brought up video games and covers because, with Lenoris, I don't know who's going to be on the new cover this summer, or if they've decided as of yet. I got a hunch
they probably have an idea.
that Jeremiah Smith could be one of them. Arch Manning.
I was going to say a Manning is going to be on it.
I would think, yeah. But, I mean, Lenoris could be on there.
He could, especially because he's going to be one of the more popular players. I'm telling
Right.
you, the friends I have that don't live in South Carolina, have no allegiance to South Carolina, who really do not watch the football team on a weekly basis the way we all do here, love Lenoris Sellers because of how fun he is to play with.
I think in all seriousness, again, I don't know who follows college football live or, how, a Gamecock beat an Oklahoma Sooner. So I don't know who's voting.
in a popularity contest. That's awesome.
in a straight up popularity vote, like nothing else. Lenoris is fun. He's fun, man, and people do. I think they like rooting for him. He's a nice guy, affable.
Yeah.
You just like you'd want to be his buddy.
I tried eating a lemon after he says that he eats lemons, just like peels them and eats them. And I tried. I was like, I will treat this lemon like an orange. And it was not for me. I found out the hard way. Not for me.
No, I couldn't do that.
You should have seen my face. There are a lot of muscles in your face, and I think I activated every single one after taking a bite.
Maybe a lime, but probably not.
Maybe a lime. Yeah, I could probably do a lime.
Yeah.
But Lenoris is tougher than me. I cannot handle the solitary lemon.
Nice work, Lenore's. But again, congratulations, Lenore Sellers. More than 500 players in the initial bracket, whittled down to one. And Lenore Sellers voted the favorite college football player as based on the folks that follow and participate with College Football Live. You can follow them on Twitter, College FB on X, because it's really called X now, but I refuse.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I refuse.
I will never.
All right, get into a few thoughts on what's going on. Could there be changes, speaking of college football, to the playoff structure this coming season? We have a championship game in just a few days. The power brokers will meet Sunday for a little recap and a start to look ahead at next season. What might be the holdup? What might be the thing they most want to change? We'll get into those details when the postgame show returns. Homeowners, I'm going to tell you what you can do to make things better around the house, especially if you've been there a while. You love it. You love the neighborhood, but you know that there's some changes that need to be made. Take advantage of some fantastic opportunities and rates with the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Home Equity Line of Credit. Listen, they know this area because this is the only place they do business, and they've been doing business in this area since the 1930s. So you know you can trust their expertise in helping you and your family with what needs to be done financially. And when it comes to a home equity line of credit, they'll open up a 10-year draw. You don't have to borrow one big sum at this point and then pay that off. No, get it done a little bit at a time. Want to redo the kitchen now, the bathroom later, add something onto the back of the house, maybe a deck, a pool, whatever it might be. Check them out. Apply today. Learn more how they can help you out. PalmettoCitizens.org is the website. 14 convenient locations all around town. Palmetto Citizens.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to you that are causing some issues on the roadways. We do have a pretty significant one that has the 2 right lanes blocked on I-26 eastbound. That's over at I-20 near exit 107B, so traffic moving very slowly through that area. Some other accidents, we have really only 2 active ones that are causing traffic jams. One on Bush River Road near St. Andrews Road, the other being on Hardscrabble Road at Clemson Road.
College football playoff championship comes up on Monday night. Ohio State remains a heavy favorite over Notre Dame. Will this be the only 12-school iteration of the college football playoff? Will we have more home games? The powers that be meet on Sunday for a little bit in Atlanta. That's where the game is. And they'll meet again later in the spring. But remember, they control it. This is no NCAA stuff. This is all about those that run the college football playoff. So, Elijah Campbell, I'm going to give you a version of a Twitter poll.
Ooh.
But it's just for you.
Now I feel special.
And now all of you can participate with Elijah, but Elijah will be the only one that is answering this for the sake of this conversation.
I will share it with everybody else, but this present is nice and very well wrapped and has my name on the tag.
You, Elijah Campbell, are in charge of the college football playoff. What is the one thing that you most want to change moving forward? A, seeding. B, number of participating teams. C, more home games. D, nothing.
Well, unfortunately, you did not include give Middle Tennessee State an auto bid every year, which I would choose.
That was E.
Okay.
But they don't let you do E on Twitter.
They don't.
So
they probably should.
It was more of a penciled-in E.
Yeah. Well, I kind of assumed because that'd be my first change. But I think I would do seeding. I think that's the big thing. Honestly, 12 doesn't bother me. I think we did fine with 12, and I honestly think we did fine with the 12 teams that were in it. I think just the biggest flaw of it ended up being the seeding.
How they seeded them.
Yeah. I'm cool with the auto bids. I love the auto bids because you get that nice rush on Championship Saturday of teams that are playing for a spot. I do like that a lot. Teams, especially, like Clemson. Like if Clemson didn't win that game, they don't get in.
Right.
To the college football playoff. That was a win and get in situation.
Arizona State as well.
Some significant drama. Arizona State, yes. And I almost wish that game was a little better. I wish Arizona State didn't kick Iowa State's ass to that hard because that would have been some awesome drama if that game was close in the fourth quarter.
Sure.
But Cam Scatterbo happened. So I do like that. I like being able to play your way in there and having some representation from other conferences because it does kind of get to mirror what you have in men's and women's college basketball with the tournament structure. You win that, you're automatically in. That's incredible for drama and for the entertainment value of your sport. I would just have rather seen better games in the first round. I don't think it's because of who was in. I think it's because who had the bye, right? If you just seeded the teams, regardless of conference champion or not, you just seeded them 1 through 12, I think you would have gotten better games in the first round. So that's fixable. And I think once we do that, we will see that happen. I think secondly would be more home games.
Yeah.
Because I love, even in a playoff structure, I do love the neutral site game. As you would put in air quotes, a bowl game.
Right.
But I do kind of like that because I like some of these venues. And I think, neutral site is where, in college, is where you should play a lot of playoff games to a certain point. But I think I would include the first 2 rounds being home games, your semifinal and championship being at neutral sites.
What's interesting to me about the seeding, and I think that's where most people are going to fall, at least in the short term, until they do expand, and I do believe that we will expand this thing. I don't think we expand this year, to be perfectly honest.
I don't think so either.
For one thing, any changes at all to the structure in 2025 must be unanimous. Now, they got them on board with a couple of these changes because they were like, y'all see how much more money this is going to make us? Like, we need to go ahead and do this, okay? Yeah. And so they did. A lot of people, and I'll blend two topics here, but a lot of people would like to see the NFL change. It's playoffs, right? Like, you still, division winners still get in.
Yes.
But maybe you don't host. But that's the incentive. And part of it, too, for conference champions was the best of you will get a bye. It's funny how it's the same but different in terms of some of the problems people have with it. I think seeding will be the one thing that does change. I want more home games. I don't disagree with your notion. And, again, I've said before, I love bowl games. I just want a bowl game to be a bowl game.
In its traditional
Yeah, I want a bowl game for somebody like me. I want a bowl game to have finality. You won the bowl game. When you win a bowl game, but you don't win a bowl game because you're still moving on, like, it's not the same. It's just, again, that's a championship in and of itself kind of a thing. Right? That's what makes those things kind of. That's what's
really
fun
cool.
about it. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just a playoff game. And again, I'm all for playoff games. I love playoff games. I'm good with this, but I'd like to see something different. I want to see this go to 16. You mentioned it, so if I had one of these, I'd say more home games. And really, how much of an advantage is the bye? That's it. I mean, this year, none of the conference champions emerged, right? Now, you had to remind me, well, a couple of conference championship game participants moved on.
Right.
But the conference champions themselves did not.
Nope.
And is that problematic? I don't know. Go win the game. Yeah. I mean, look, Georgia defense, you played well enough. You got to score some points and don't give up stupid turnovers down low. Oregon, you got beat. Arizona State, you played great.
They did. Yeah, they over expectation.
Right? And Clemson didn't play well. So I'd like to see more home games because I think that's part of what makes college football great is the pomp and circumstance and tradition at home sites. I think the travel is the same whether you're going to whatever. It's interesting. There's a quote in here, Heather Dinich's piece on the bowl games, and I want to read it verbatim because I think it's great. She says bowl season, that's a thing. It's like the name of the group, bowl season, that kind of is the advocate for the bowls. Bowl season executive director Nick Carparelli said his organization, as one would expect, she writes, is in favor of more playoff games in bowl games. Quote, I think one of the biggest misconceptions in the construct of this new playoff was that the home games would alleviate some of the travel burden on fans. The average fan who goes to a game in South Bend or State College does not live there, right? They're traveling to their home game. I've heard a lot of anecdotal stories of people who have said, I'd rather go see my team play in a warmer environment than have to go there. End quote. Again, very self-serving.
Yes.
I mean, sure, you've heard a lot of people say that, but have you heard a majority of fans? Would Penn State fans listen? I know it's cold up there, and that's another thing. What is Desmond Howard going to say? Because Des all year was like, let's let these Southern teams come up north in December. To which I pushed back and said, none of you Northern teams have ever played the week of Christmas either.
Where it's also,
it's going to be cold. It's going to be cold for everybody.
The season, yeah.
And a lot of you are from, a lot of kids who go to Michigan and Ohio State are from Florida and Texas. Just saying. Anyway, I don't want to talk about the weather right now. No, they'd rather be at home. They'd rather, if you had a choice, if you're these two coaches, as an example, okay, Marcus Freeman or James Franklin, hey, would y'all rather have played at home or would you have rather gone to Florida for the first game? They want to play at home.
If you get that advantage, yes, certainly.
You want to play at home. So, I mean, do a lot of fans want to go? Yeah, you know why? Because that's what we've done. That's what we're accustomed to. Bowl games. If you go, you go. But I don't think I'd ever want to go, even if it's cool. Like, I don't want to go to that Pinstripe Bowl. I don't want to go to New York right then.
It's a terrible bowl game.
I don't want to go to Fenway Park then. I don't want to go to the Potato Bowl in Boise. I got no desire for that, man.
Have you ever watched a Fenway Bowl or a Pinstripe Bowl and been like, man, I'd love to be in that crowd now? No, it's snowing some of the time.
I like going to New York City.
Not in December.
But I don't want to go then unless I'm, like going to see Fish in New Year's at the Garden.
Could be fun.
But I would not be the guy who wants to go outside and do the Times Square thing. I ain't standing out there in that.
No, it's
no
bitter.
way, man.
That is bitter cold.
No way. I'll be curious as to what they're going to change, if anything. My gut tells me that the format we saw is the format we see. And then in 26, when it doesn't have to be unanimous, and maybe Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey flex their muscles a little bit more with some different formats. But I tell you what, let's come back because you have an interesting idea about something that I think could work when it comes to bowl games and sites. If we expand, we'll do that for you. We'll update our own poll questions as well. You're listening to the Thursday Postgame Show. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of our second hour coming up top of the 5. We'll have our headlines of the day. We'll have some more comments from Lamont Paris after a tough loss last night. Drive around the SEC as well. Got a couple of poll questions running. I want to continue for just a minute here, though, our discussion on potential changes to the college football playoff. Elijah and I were discussing some of this morning. I'd ultimately like to see this thing go to 16, and I'd like
the playoff, but the postseason as a whole. And as the kids would say, Scott Docterman cooked in that story. I mean, that man was on fire. He was making the heat checks and everything. He was like Missouri against Florida in the first half a couple nights ago. But one of those heat checks that he absolutely drilled was having some of the first or second round playoff losers participate in those playoff games. Players can opt out. Totally cool. They've been opting out anyway, right? But that gives you a little finality, and it provides those teams with extra practices to work towards next year. I mean, throughout bowl season, how many times did we talk about one of the benefits of being in a bowl game? And last year when Carolina didn't make a bowl game, that they were missing out on additional practices for someone like Lenoris to be able to get reps underneath his belt, a bowl game in which he could have gotten reps underneath his belt going into the next season. Because I remember doing some shows, by myself when you were taking some days off, saying, look, we're getting our first look at Jackson Arnold as the quarterback for Oklahoma, Nico Iamaleava as the quarterback for Tennessee, Garrett Nussmeier as a full-time starter at LSU. Those guys got valuable reps, not just in those practices, but in those live action, game plays. So there's still some benefit of doing it, even if it doesn't mean as much because your season's over at that point. But honestly, I don't think that would take away from what like how we had those New Year's 6 bowl games for the non-playoff games, like if the Cotton Bowl and the Orange Bowl, like this year would be the 2 playoff games. Are fewer people watching the Rose Bowl if, let's say, Oregon gets to go play in it? Say we did the same format this year minus the venue of the games. Oregon would be in it, and they would play Tennessee.
Right.
I think a lot of people would still watch Oregon and Tennessee, even if Dylan Gabriel opted out.
I agree.
You'd still, and they know that's the final game.
Yeah, you still got fans.
You still have that finality. It's still a trip to Pasadena. You still get to have that game, and I think that would still do relatively well.
And again, offer some finality. The only, and I'm not pushing back on you because I don't disagree with you at all. What's the fervor? What's the desire from some of the? It's like, well, I mean, we lost the playoff. Now we're going to go play another bowl game. I would hope though.
You could have some flops. Yeah. I'll answer your question. Another question. What's the difference between that and what Georgia and Florida State did in the Orange Bowl last year?
Nothing. So I think you raise a good point. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Our buddy Michael Geddes of Integrated Media /Proswing.
Yes, coming out tomorrow.
Says I would like them to add an NIT style tournament with the other lesser bowl games. Make that a playoff too. So he says I vote E. I guess there's like E
and giving Middle Tennessee State
E.1 and E.2.
Well, E includes Middle Tennessee State getting an auto bid every year. So Michael, thank you for voting for the Blue Raiders to get an auto bid every year. Regardless of record, they're in.
That could be.
Let them in.
Yeah, that could be fun. But here's the thing: I need you to have something more than a trophy. I mean, again, I'm not averse to this. Put some cash up.
Yeah. Oh, that would absolutely raise the stakes.
Winning team splits $500,000.
It'd be a lot of fun. The winner of the national championship has to play first game of the year. Everybody leaves week 1 open, has to play the winner of the consolation bracket the next season
I would
to
love
open
that.
the season. Kind of like what they do in the Premier League.
Premier League, the winner of the FA Cup plays the winner of the Premier League, and it's not a real game. Well, it is, but it isn't. It isn't a regular season game, but it is a game that has money attached to it. Yes. And a trophy attached to it. They do it in Europe as well. Just overall, the winner of the Champions League plays the winner of the Europa League. Again, it's a glorified exhibition, but it's a glorified exhibition with a cash prize attached.
Now, wouldn't that be fun? Say South Carolina, because they're the hottest team in college football, would win this hypothetical NIT style tournament, and say Ohio State beats Notre Dame on Monday. Can you imagine how much fun it'd be playing Ohio State to kick off the 2025 season?
I'm all for something like that.
And you play the game in the venue the national championship was at. So kick off in Atlanta, Ohio State.
I'm down with that. They'll meet on Sunday. We'll have a game on Monday. Again, I don't know if they get a lot of finality in terms of the future decisions, but change is coming. Just a matter of when, not if. Hour 3 on the way. Winter in South Carolina is fully upon us now. Is your home comfortable? Is your heating unit up to snuff when it comes to the next, 6 or 8 weeks or so? Because that's about it. Winter's pretty short around here. Don't worry about the groundhog. If it's not, then call AAA Heating and Air. They're ready to help you out. 803-677-1500. One of their great technicians can come in and figure out what's up, get you a quick repair, and they have their true transparency pricing. You know up front what it'll cost you. And if it's time for something new, 15-year parts and labor guarantee, $1,500 system buyback rebate. Roy and Dana Finley guarantee they can get you financed as well. It's a great opportunity for you to get a new system or, again, to get it taken care of. No matter what, make sure that you and your family are nice and comfortable. And that's all that AAA Heating and Air is concerned about, your comfort and happiness. Love what they've done for me. You will, too. 803-677-1500, AAA Heating and Air.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to you, they're causing some issues on the roadways. Only 2, thankfully, but one of them is a pretty significant backup. An accident has 2 right lanes completely blocked on I-26 eastbound. That's over at I-20 near exit 107B. The other one, a more minor traffic backup, but an accident has been reported on Bush River Road near St. Andrews Road. It's been causing some minor traffic issues for about the last 30 minutes.
It is 5 o'clock news time on this Thursday. Welcome back in. It's also the final hour of the postgame show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. We're inside the Herndon Chevy Studios, wherever you are. Thank you for choosing to be with us. Let's jump into Carolina basketball. Last night, the Gamecocks fall in Nashville, 66-63 to the Vanderbilt Commodores. Carolina, Oklahoma, LSU, I believe, are the only winless teams remaining in Southeastern Conference hoops. And I have said a few times today from my own perspective, it's ironic. South Carolina did more than enough to win last night's basketball game, except for one gigantic thing they didn't do, and that was protect the basketball. They turned the ball over 25 times. As Elijah told us, that was better than 35% of their possessions. They turned the ball over. They shot better than Vandy. They out-rebounded Vanderbilt. They did a lot of things right, and down 7 at halftime, down as many as 7. They were down 7 at the under 8, and yet came all the way back to tie the game on multiple occasions. Had a couple of just bad fundamental sequences, but you did enough to win that game. And I've said this too. Obviously, Elijah, we've already discussed it once today, but in your first 2 conference games, you lost by a combined 55 points. In your next 2 conference games, you lost by a combined 6, and you did so without 2 starters. You are playing better basketball, but you're still over, and that's the hard part. Now, again, you go to another over this weekend with an opportunity to probably catch a team that's a little down on itself in a quiet gym. I don't know if it'll be enough, but if you keep beating yourself, you ain't going to beat anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, you're not beating anybody turning the ball over 25 times. I don't care if you're playing Vanderbilt. I don't care if you're in Nashville playing Brentwood Academy. I mean, you might struggle to beat them if you turn the ball over 25 times and give them easy layups.
Well, how many dudes are going to play D1 ball on that team, right?
Well, I mean,
half of them.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in school, yeah, a good chunk of them. Yeah, And sort of Tyler Tanner, one of the guards for Vanderbilt, played, and ironically enough, just the first name that popped in my head. But you're not beating anybody turning the ball over 25 times, and the fact that it was a 3-point game, and you had a clear look at the rim to send it to overtime, just tells you exactly how much more you dominated the other valuable facets of the game. You had a better effective field goal percentage than they did. You had a significantly higher offensive rebound percentage and free throw rate than they did. Those are 3 of the 4 factors. But they call them the 4 factors, Jay Phillips, not the 3 factors. Because if it was just 3, then you would have had that thing signed, sealed, and delivered. But turnover percentage is weighted pretty heavily in that equation, and you failed in that one miserably enough to cancel out the other 3.
Well, you had another stat for us, and you said when you were predicting the game, or not predicting, but previewing the game yesterday, that you accounted for South Carolina turning the ball over more than in any other game they had turned it over so far, and that would have been 15, but you turned it over 25. And if everything else is equal, which is obviously not always, easily applicable, then you win that game by a couple of possessions. That's not how it works. That's not what happened. And South Carolina fell. We've given you a bunch of those negatives. Here's Lamont Paris with his assessment of what happened.
Very, very tough loss to swallow. I mean, and particularly when you had, and that was my message at halftime, was that with 16 turnovers, God forbid we have a chance. The basketball god shined on us to make the game only a 7-point game at halftime, guys. Whoa. I'm not even sure if we deserved that, but that's what we got. So we come out in the second half only to turn it over, cut it all the way down to 9 turnovers in the second half for a total of 25. You can't do that. You can't play basketball and win that way. You can't have 2 guys that have 5 turnovers. Yeah. We scored 37 points in the second half on minus the 9 turnovers. So you're getting what you want. At the end of the game, we didn't. We had the ball point blank right around the rim twice and didn't get anything out of it. But,
So it's a tough one. Gamecocks stay on the road again. They'll be in Norman on Saturday, 4 o'clock tip, 3:30 airtime here on 107.5 in Columbia and across the Gamecock radio network. We'll have more from Coach Paris coming up for you in just a little bit, including some places where South Carolina can potentially get something turned around. But turned around and facing what, I think, is one of the big questions. But as we said, you are playing better basketball. What does that mean? How does that make you feel? That's up to you as a fan or the players or the coaches. But again, 55 points combined losses in your first 2 conference games, 6 combined in your next 2, but you're 0-4.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that's playing a lot better defensively. Defensively, you played fine.
Yeah. No, you did enough to win, except for that one. And that was a really bad one other, as you
except for 25 plays.
In the meantime, the Gamecock women will be on the road tonight. They go to Alabama. This is the second of a stretch of 5 consecutive games against ranked teams in conference play. Gamecocks are heavy favorites. We talked to our good friend Brad Muller a little bit earlier. Bama shoots a lot of threes. They do have a couple of bigs that are very good as well. And, of course, the Gamecocks now learning to live without star Ashlyn Watkins. Here's Dawn Staley on, once again, her bench needing to be a strength.
We use it to our advantage, obviously, by playing a lot of players. They all deserve to be on the floor. Some of them that don't play probably deserve a little bit more. It helps in the whole longevity of a season. This stretch that we're in right now, it's tough. It's tough. I think during a stretch like this, during a stretch of conference play, it's about trusting your team. It's about trusting your habits that you've built, and we've been able to do that for most of the season.
Gamecocks will be on our sister station 98.5 FM tonight. Brad will be on the call at 6:30. It's a 7 o'clock tip from Coleman Coliseum. Again, the Gamecocks heavy favorites in this one. In fact, and I'm not really much of a gambler or anything like that, but let me go back to this one, Elijah, because I think...
But you do know when to hold them.
I just always,
when to
man.
fold them.
I just don't bet. Hang on, but I want to find you the money line because I was like, are you serious? You want to guess what the money line is for South Carolina?
For South Carolina, I want to say minus 1,500.
Minus 2,500.
Oh.
Plus 650 for Alabama.
Hubba.
Minus 2,500.
I mean, don't waste your time betting on Alabama. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
that's not because it ain't happening,
right.
But yeah.
Carolina favored by 15.5.
One way
minus
or another.
2,500. In other words, you'd have to bet $2,500 on South Carolina to win $100.
No.
It's like that Eddie Murphy bit. Hey, Johnny, I got a job at the boutique this weekend. Now we have $100 million and $30. Those of you who know, what is it? What do the kids say? If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
Yeah. So 7 o'clock tonight, 6:30 airtime, 98.5. When we're done, by the way, at 6 o'clock, Lamont Paris, Derek Scott live with Carolina Calls from Backstreets. All right, continuing our integrated media headlines of the day. Scary situation, still with some details to emerge out of Baton Rouge. Backup LSU quarterback Colin Hurley, who's only 17 years old, was found unresponsive but breathing overnight by LSU police, who called the fire department and had to get young Mr. Hurley out of his car. He was taken out of his Dodge Charger by EMS and fire personnel, taken to a local hospital. As of the 3 o'clock hour today, according to this report from our buddy Chris Lowe, the cause of the crash has not been released. An LSU athletics department statement says we are working through proper protocols with his family before we can have any comment. Colin Hurley is from Jacksonville, was a true freshman last year, did not play for the Tigers, and again is still a minor at 17 years old. So more coming out of that. But this happened around 3 a.m. near the LSU campus. That's what we've got. It says near the gates of the LSU campus. And again, had to have the fire department get him out of the car. So hopefully he is going to be okay. Aaron Rodgers says his future, he just said this on the Pat McAfee show today, depends on who the Jets hire as both GM and head coach. You buying into that?
I think he will play wherever he'll be accepted, which isn't exactly as many suitors as he thinks it is.
Quote, I think everybody understands that it's going to come down to a GM and a coach and myself and whether we all want to do a dance together or if it's not in the cards. He was pretty good last year. I mean, pretty good for him. 3,897 yards, 28 touchdowns. The 11 picks is a lot for him, but
Some of those cost him games.
Yeah, and how much of that is the team around him? I mean, I know people.
Brees Hall's a really good running back. Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. They brought his friend over.
They brought Devontae, and then they got the big record touchdowns, right? 500 and 501 and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of fun. I don't know. He says they have had constructive suggestions regarding team operations with Christopher Johnson and the team's president, Jaime Elahai. But no GM, no coach. And you're looking at one more year?
Yeah.
Would you rather develop your guy next year and take the lumps?
I think I would. Instead of having the dark cloud of your quarterback who is underperforming his contract and what you traded for him way past his prime and is going to air the dirty laundry out on the Pat McAfee show every week. Yeah, I don't want that headache.
If everything went perfectly, they're the third best team in their division?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
That's assuming everything goes perfectly for Miami.
Yeah.
Miami's probably better suited to be better.
Yeah, Miami's better than the Jets.
Everything was even with health, you know.
I just can't see. I mean, and you could say, well, Jay, if everything went perfectly, they'd be 17-0. That ain't happening.
Perfectly in terms of health.
Yeah. So we'll see. But I don't think he's going to play again. Not there. I don't think he's.
I can't imagine he's going to have a ton of suitors given.
I mean,
age,
it becomes
injury.
kind of a novelty. You know, do you just want to sell some tickets?
Yeah. And there are franchises who that's really all they care about. Las Vegas.
I was going to say Vegas is the one that makes the most sense.
You think Tom would be interested in bringing Aaron Rodgers over? I do. Yeah.
Tommy. I don't know. And finally, this hurt when Elijah told me this morning. But Bob Uecker died today. If you haven't already heard that, he was 90. Of course, it depends on what you know him as what he's most famous for. That's the beauty of it. Certainly, he was the longtime voice of the Milwaukee Brewers. But he had a television sitcom for a bit. He was obviously on a bunch of beer commercials. I wonder if most people do remember him, for Major League and Major League Two. Honestly, I grew up with him on Johnny Carson.
Nice.
Telling stories about, they put a statue of me out front in St. Louis, but they spelled my name wrong. And Johnny, I was like, what was it? Well, they said it was Stanmusial, and that's not how I spell my name. I remember that one. I remember another one when he told Johnny, he's like, I was once voted the minor league player of the year, John. It was my second year in the big leagues. Things like that. Just good stuff, He was brilliant, and I know our buddy Jim Powell worked with him for many, many years in Milwaukee before Jim came back home and became the voice of the Braves. But Bob Uecker was fantastic, man. Look, here's the thing that was great about him too. He played in the major leagues for a while. That means you're great at baseball, but he was so self-deprecating in terms of never taking it too seriously because he wasn't a great baseball player in the major leagues, but he was in the major leagues. I mean, most of us would kill to have the cup of coffee, as you hear.
To play a game in the major leagues.
But he was absolutely fantastic, man. And he'll be missed. He's been sick for a bit and out of the game for a little while. But 90 years old, the great Bob Uecker, may he rest in peace and keep a lot of people in stitches in baseball heaven. That's our integrated media headlines of the day. 803-948-8327 for all your home theater needs and so much more. Call our good friends at Integrated Media. All right, we'll continue breaking down a little bit more of Carolina basketball. Look ahead to Saturday and, somewhat rhetorically, all right, what can this season still hold for Carolina basketball? You're listening to the Postgame Show. And once again, let me tell you about our good friends at AAA Heating and Air. You need to stay nice and warm this time of year, y'all. And if it's not working for you, well, it's time to call 803-677-1500 and take advantage of the great experts at AAA Heating and Air. They'll keep you nice and warm. Furnace acting up on you, heat pump not coming on when it's supposed to. Whatever it might be, they'll take care of it for you. If it's time for something new, because you're like, man, I don't even know if I've ever had this thing serviced, or you moved into a house, I don't know how old it is, then take advantage of some great opportunities with guaranteed financing, a $1,500 instant buyback rebate, 15-year parts and labor guarantee, and again, guaranteed financing. Roy and Dana Finley want to make sure that you can stay nice and warm or cool, depending on the time of year, and do it affordably. 803-677-1500 is the number to call. Tell them we sent you. Do what I've done, Bill Gunner, and many of your friends and neighbors. Stay nice and comfortable with AAA Heating and Air. Twenty minutes after 5 o'clock on this Thursday afternoon. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay and Elijah with you. Remind you that tomorrow we are going to be at the brand new Pro Swing on Forest Drive all day long. Even Bill Gunner.
And he gets there early.
Yeah. Think he'll get there on time? Jen will.
What are
Preston
the
will.
odds? Yeah. For putting odds on it. Odds Bill is on time.
I mean, probably pretty good. If you want to do a money line on that one, I'll go like plus 110.
Plus 110 that he's on time.
Yeah,
I'd bet on that.
he'll probably make that.
So plus 110, yeah. If you give me that at plus money, yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, I think he will, but it's not that big a prize. I mean,
But it's a prize. It's a plus.
yeah.
I'll bet $100 to win 110.
All right. I don't know. Actually, I'm going to revise those odds.
That's what I thought. But it's too late. You already said plus. You already
did.
said, and I made the bet as that was on the board. So
Nah, you know what? I believe in him. I do. So I'll keep it. I'll keep it the plus 110. He'll make it. But anyway, we'll be out there tomorrow all day long. Looking forward to it. And official grand opening. They've been open a little over a week. It's awesome in there, man. Again, they invited me in to play the week before they opened, and I got to play Harbortown. It was fun. I did okay. That's the story, and I'm sticking to it.
yeah, probably less than okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll be out there for the big tournament, the tournament.
I'm excited for that.
3-day tournament, $150 per team, 2-person team, $1,000 grand prize.
It's a pretty nice prize.
Some prizes to give away, like raffled off, not really raffled, I guess, but if you're a registered participant, tailor-made equipment, other pro swing like gift cards. There's gonna be food, Gamecock baseball tickets.
I do love food and tickets.
Yep. So a lot of fun stuff, man.
Here.
Check them out, Pro Swing. It's right across from Lowe's Foods on Forest Drive, and in the same building as Bonefish, over there in that part of town. It's just like, not even a mile from the interstate.
No,
right there at main entrance of Fort Jackson. Come say hey. Very convenient. Very convenient. Very convenient from downtown, coming down Taylor/Forest. Convenient to the interstate. Convenient for Spring Valley folk. Just like get on the Trenton Extension and come that way.
A lot of stuff around it.
Shandon, Heathwood folk. Y'all know how to get there. Come say hey. We'll be there tomorrow.
Looking forward to it.
Yep. And we'll have a wild card showdown tomorrow as well. I wonder if we can get a Pro Swing prize.
You know some folks. Folks. I think we can make that happen.
Talking out loud sometimes works.
Sometimes. It gets me in trouble more often than not.
Yeah, me too. Like it might have just now.
You just get a text. It just says, shut up.
Yeah, no, you will not get a Pro Swing prize. Oh, we'll find out. Looking forward to it. All right. So I threw out on Twitter last night, that any postseason opportunity for Carolina basketball is dwindling, and I'm not here to be Mr. Silver Lining or whatever. Again, postseason includes the NIT and nothing else. Not going to go to any of these other ones. I told Elijah earlier, the ones that they hold in some high school gym somewhere with college teams. Although that one last year we were watching, that was kind of funny.
Well, because there was a guy for Seattle University who looked like he was absolutely the front man in a Leonard Skinner cover band.
Well, he was the drummer in a cover, in like a Skinner cover band. That's what he looked like to me, the drummer.
If you asked like any type of like AI image machine or whatever,
that would spit that dude out.
Hey, what is a human version of the song Free Bird? It's that guy.
Yeah. That guy.
He still plays for him, by the way. Still there.
Well, and I bet you he's been there since like the late 70s because that's what
since Free Bird was released.
That's what he looks like. More importantly, in all seriousness, though, you got to go. You got to go get this one again. Oklahoma's not good either. When I say not good, listen. 0-4 is 0-4 in the conference.
Yeah.
Right. However, you got there. You hadn't won. This team does seem to be trending in the right direction. Is that enough, Elijah? I don't know. My concern would be, going 0-5, having a great Florida team coming in here where the Gamecocks are asking you, the athletic department is asking you to do a blackout, and your kids are all back. That energy and support that was created last year. I used the analogy with you the other day. is just beginning to evaporate like water in the desert if you don't do something about it. And that something is winning games. This is sports. That's it. Playing better, yay, fun, cool. And again, for those of you who didn't hear us say it, you know it, but I'll just reiterate it for you. First 2 conference games, you lost by a combined 55 points. Your next 2 conference games, you lost by a combined 6 points. You are trending in the right direction. Is it enough to make people feel better this season about what Lamont wants to do?
Don't think so about this season. You're trending in the right direction in some assets or facets of your game. You are going the wrong direction in the other way, right? There's you look at this team on defense earlier on in the season. They were below 60 in Ken Palm's defensive efficiency. You've got yourself into the top 50. This is the top 50 defensive unit in all of college basketball right now. Over the course of the entire season, you've kind of hovered in the 90s on offense, and you're down to 122 on offense. You are actively getting worse offensively. Now, you did have a good offensive showing where you went over a point per possession against Auburn, and not a lot of teams are going over a point per possession against Auburn, but to go at 0.9 points per possession against a Vanderbilt team that ranks 62 in defense isn't a great sign, especially when you knew the one thing they did very well going into it and you still fell into that trap. I think that's the one concerning thing that wouldn't give a lot of fans hope that you can turn it around. Because, look, there's one thing if they're, for the football team this year, right? We knew the defense was a monster coming into the season, but you had to figure out what it was going to be with Lenoris and the rest of the team. And you figured that out slowly throughout the year. And once that got better, you saw the close losses, like the Alabama one, eventually turn into wins because you had your constants, right? It was the whole team, whether it be offense, defense, special teams, was going up in trajectory, right? Up in the metrics. There was gradual improvement throughout the year. But you can't keep playing whack-a-mole with your problems and expect to start getting results, right? You commit 25 turnovers against Auburn, you lose by 50. Yeah. Okay?
Yeah.
You get crushed. But then you do it to Vanderbilt, you lose by 3, and ultimately you still get losses in both games, even though both of them were really close. If you just keep playing whack-a-mole with it, you might have maybe 8 turnovers in the game against Oklahoma, but you shoot 3 of 25 from 3. Or you get out muscled on the glass, and Oklahoma grabs 50% of their missed shots, and they beat you by 10, right? If your issues are that scattered and different on a game-to-game basis, it's really hard to corral all of that and get it ready to play against the caliber of opponents that you're playing twice a week.
Alabama, who beat Carolina badly, beat Oklahoma by 28. Then Oklahoma lost at home by 2 to A&M in a game in which the Sooners led by 18 points, so they just blew it. And they went to Athens a couple nights ago and fell to Georgia 72 to 62. So, what's their 4th conference loss here?
Texas.
Texas. Yeah, Texas last night. Yeah, by 4 points. That was late last night.
They were down almost 20 at one point.
So they're, and Oklahoma has a 73% chance to win this game. So despite both teams being 0-4, you would certainly believe that Oklahoma is a better basketball team.
They have a couple of really good players that when they're at the top of their game, they're really good. Defensively, Oklahoma's real, I won't say soft. They're not very good defensively. Texas was able to get whatever shots they wanted to. Oklahoma switched up some of their ball screen coverages, and whether they were aggressive or they sagged back and played drop, Texas picked them apart for most of the night. And a lot of teams have done that against them. Alabama did the exact same thing against them. But here's the thing. Can you take advantage of that? And if you can hold Jeremiah Fears from under 20 points, you have a good chance of winning. Georgia held him to 2, and Georgia beat them by 10 at home. What kind of defense can you play on one player that is a really special player?
Drive around the SEC on the other side. Update our poll questions for today as well. It's the postgame show.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to, they're causing some issues on the roadways, starting with one at Assembly Street near Calhoun Street. Got one on I-20 westbound at Clemson Road near exit 80. I-26 eastbound at I-20 near exit 107B. One on Platte Springs Road at South Lake Drive. And lastly, one on US 378 at Charter Oak Road near St. Peter's Road.
It is Drive Around the SEC time on this Thursday. Welcome back in. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Appreciate you being with us. Basketball last night is where we'll start. We just gave you, there's only one other game from last night to tell you about. We said Texas edged Oklahoma in Norman 77-73. The Horns up 16 points at the break and had to hold off the Sooners. Again, Oklahoma's been in a couple of games where it's this was the reverse. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster for them, man. A real roller coaster for them in a lot of these games.
I don't know why, and maybe I'm being subjective and a guy from around here or something as I look at it, but I feel like Saturday is a real opportunity. I don't think that gym's going to be quiet. It'll be a 3:00 local game on a Saturday. I don't know how much life will be in there. Again, both teams really want to win, so I get that, and just need a win, but I just feel like there's an opportunity there. You need to go do it. Can you
be the more desperate team? It's a desperation goal. I mean, this is that, and the one thing that I would challenge them as a team is to show that you're the more desperate team, right? I mean, in the Alabama game, you showed that you were desperate for a little bit, and then you kind of came out flat the rest of the way. And one thing that Lamont talked about with his disappointment in the Mississippi State game was a lot of the energy stuff. There was no energy in that game at all. You cannot have that energy, that level of energy in this game, because Oklahoma is desperate for a win.
So again, Sooners fall to 0-4. Texas goes to that was Texas' first win.
Yeah, they were desperate
in conference
in that game
play. Yeah, they're 1-3.
Texas is a good team, man. That's a team with some offensive firepower. Trey Johnson is one of the better freshmen in college basketball. Cooper Flagg gets talked about a lot as being the best freshman in the sport, but Trey Johnson has already been one of those gifted scorers in the entire SEC already.
Tennessee last night, good game for 20-something minutes, and then Tennessee was like, all right, that's enough.
Zakai Ziegler said, your basketball now becomes my basketball. I will take that to the tune of 6 steals. Georgia
actually had a 1-point halftime lead up at Thompson Bowling, but in the end, it was all Tennessee, 74-56, the final. The Vols outscoring the Dogs by 19 points in the second half. And again, Carolina falling in Nashville, 66-63. So right now, it's still anybody's race, really, in the Southeastern Conference, looking at the standings through the first 4 games of the year. Auburn and Ole Miss are undefeated in conference play. Tennessee, Alabama, Kentucky, Missouri, maybe Missouri being the surprise, are all 3-1. State, Florida, Georgia, Vandy, A&M 2-2. LSU, who beat Arkansas the other night for their first win. Texas gets their first win against Oklahoma, are 1-3. Gamecocks, Razorbacks, Sooners 0-4. Feels about right, with the exception perhaps of Missouri being 3-1 and Texas being 1-3. Nothing else is really surprising me.
Yeah, well, and the thing with Texas, too, is Texas is a really good team. They just had a murderous draw to start their conference play. They had to go on the road to Texas A&M, top 15 team. Then they had to play number 2 Auburn at home, and then number 1 Tennessee at home. Yeah. They had those games back to back before getting to go play at Oklahoma. Oklahoma was the breather, but now your reward is playing top 10 Florida on the road on Saturday. So they've had a really tough schedule draw, Texas has, and they're going to have to start beating some of those teams to convince people that they are as good as that roster is. But Texas being 1-3 on principle is surprising, but the schedule they've had, the draw that they had for the first 2 weeks of the season has been brutal.
How Florida comes here next week again? They want that to be a blackout here at CLA. How good is Florida overachieving?
A little bit. Because coming into the year, I knew Florida would be about top, and that just made the roster even better. They're already one of the biggest teams in college basketball. They're very athletic. They're already one of the best offensive rebounding teams coming back from last year. So I knew they'd be really good, but I didn't see them peaking at like number 5 or 6.
Where they are right now, number 5, 15-2 on the year, but again, 2-2 in conference play. Let's get to our poll questions here as part of the drive around the SEC, even though neither one of them really has anything to do with the SEC.
We can make them that way.
Well, we kind of do. The uniform one does.
Yes, we can bend that to our will.
Yeah, we'll find a way to do that for you. We have 2 poll questions running. As we look ahead to the 2025 Gamecock football season, how often would you like to see the 1980-style uniforms worn? These are the ones they threw out against Akron and Wofford, and we saw the helmet on a couple of other occasions. A, every game. B, 3 to 5 games, or, a good portion of games. C, once a season. D, never again. Right now, 43.4% of you say once a season, 30.5%. Actually, hang on, we just got an update. Let me go over here. All right, 44.1 once a season, 30.5, 3 to 5 games. Every game, 18.3, 7.2% say never again. And Elijah and I have convinced ourselves that the 7 had a story today that said the interest in Deion Sanders for the head coaching job is real. Ed also reporting that people around Deion are urging him to pursue the job. No interview has been set up. There was a talk, but Jerry and Deion know each other. Just to remind everybody, of course, Deion played for the Cowboys for 5 seasons, but the Sanders family made their home in Dallas. And, the boys were raised in Dallas, and until Deion became a coach, they were living in Dallas. He knew Jerry, saw Jerry, went to games, blah, blah, blah. So there's a connection, a familiarity that, a rapport that's already there that might not be there with other coaches. So they're saying, hey, go, hey, Deion, go get that job. Tell Jerry you want the job. So that's what Ed is reporting. At the same time, Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports, who's based in Charlotte, used to cover the Panthers, now covers the NFL nationally, but again, is based in North Carolina, went to North Carolina, worked for the Daily Tar Heel, knows people in Chapel Hill, knows people around the NFL, says Bill Belichick has not yet signed his contract. That there's just an understanding, but there's no signed contract. Would the unsigned contract actually allow Bill Belichick to not have to pay a $10 million buyout before June if he wants to go to the NFL? So that's our second poll question. Most likely scenario for Deion and Coach Belichick by the start of the 2025 season. A, Deion in college, Bill in the NFL. B, Deion in the NFL, Bill in college. C, both in college. D, both in the NFL. Right now, most of you, but not a majority, 37%, both in college. 26.5, Deion in the NFL, Bill in college. 24.3, both in the NFL. Just 12.2 say Deion in college, Bill in the NFL. Did you vote on this one?
I don't think I did.
I didn't.
I can't make up my mind.
Yeah, I can't
make
vote.
up my mind.
My gut tells me that the lead here, 37% both in college, is what's going to happen.
That might be the most likely scenario.
Yeah.
If you're asking what the most likely one is.
And that is exactly what I'm doing, the most likely scenario.
That is the most likely. However, what I think actually happens, I do think Jerry's dumb enough to do it.
He might be, man.
I do.
That's the drive around the SEC and other stuff brought to you by Herd and Chevy. We'll come back. Elijah has numbers on the worst losses for national champions in the season in which they won a title. We'll do it on the other side. Eleven minutes in front of 6 o'clock here on this Thursday, late afternoon, nearly early evening, a little dusky outside. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of the postgame show. As soon as we are done here in Columbia and across the Gamecock Radio Network, Carolina Calls with Coach Paris and the voice, Derek Scott. And again, reminder here in Columbia, 6:30 on 98.5 FM. Carolina women's basketball against Alabama. Brad Muller on the call. And tomorrow, all day at Pro Swing, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Elijah and I will not be out there all day.
No.
Not all day.
I'll get there early.
Yeah, I'll get there early.
I want to check the place out. I'm
Cool.
curious.
It's cool.
It looks really cool.
It's cool. It's fun. It's fun. Tomorrow, we'll be out there. Looking forward to it. All right, college football playoff championship game Monday night. Ohio State, heavy favorites. Ohio State lost a couple times this year, Elijah Campbell.
They have.
And Notre Dame lost this year.
To a team in the MAC.
Yeah. And even though one of Ohio State's losses was to Michigan, they were 21.5-point favorites, were the Buckeyes.
3-score favorites.
So there's been some digging done on worst losses by a national football champion in the season in which they won the title.
Mm-hmm. This is one of my favorite athletic articles done in a long time. Again, by our man Scott Docterman, who's just on an absolute heater.
He is, man.
Right now. He's cooking.
He's
right?
rolling.
He's cooking, and all the food is good. So he's gone back and looked at and ranked the worst losses by national champions, because more than likely, Ohio State's going to win. This will be our first multi-loss national champion since 2007 LSU. So we might make some history there if Notre Dame wins. Of course, it's a one-loss national champion, which we've seen plenty of times, but I don't know if we've ever had a one-loss champion with a loss as bad as Northern Illinois. But we'll let you decide if any of these are worse than Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois if Notre Dame were to win at all. His number one, September 17th, 1977. This is the only time in college football history a national champion lost to a team that finished under 500.
Oh.
And that team was Notre Dame, losing to Ole Miss 20-13. Notre Dame junior quarterback Joe Montana was inserted into the game. They came back, won that game, and ended up winning the national championship.
He was good.
He was. I've heard of him.
Yeah.
Joe Montana was pretty good, too.
That's right.
I love Criminal Minds.
Yeah, what kind of quarterback would he would have had?
Not a good one. September 6, 2014, Ohio State, a season opener. Ohio State on national television dropped one to Virginia Tech, 35-21. That was J.T. Barrett entered the game after Braxton Miller got hurt early on. That Ohio State team went on to win the national championship, the first ever college football playoff with a third-string quarterback in Cardale Jones. And that Virginia Tech team finished the regular season 6-6, got into the Military Bowl and beat Cincinnati 33-17 to avoid Ohio State being the second team all time. So that game, that Military Bowl, insignificant for many, significant for history.
Yeah,
because that kept Ohio State from being the second team with a loss to a team under 500 as a national champion.
All right.
So a juicy one there. This one's wild. And this one, given Oklahoma's history and Kansas's history in this sport, this is absolutely mind-numbing. November 8th, 1975, Kansas beat Oklahoma 23-3. Didn't just beat Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's a whoop, especially back in the mid-70s, man.
Yeah, kept them from scoring a touchdown. Kansas coached by, you guessed it, Bud Moore. Assistant coach Bud Less cannot be contacted for comment. September 28th, 1957, Ohio State finds himself on this list again. It was the first career season opening loss for Woody Hayes when they got beat by TCU 18-14.
What year?
It was 1957.
Wow. Oh, Woody hung around for a while until he punched a dude in the throat.
Yeah, it's amazing what assaulting a collegiate athlete will
I
do
could
to
tell
your
you.
career.
I could tell you in I was exactly where I was sitting in my grandparents' den that night,
watching him clothesline,
and my grandmother being just
appalled,
aghast.
I mean, I went to that's shocking.
Yeah,
that is something you do not expect to see a grown adult do, coaching college kids.
I remember also a couple years later disagreeing with my grandmother when she said, well, I don't mind pulling for Clemson when they're not playing the Gamecock. And I was like, I do.
And I won't.
Yeah. But I do remember that, man. It was surreal.
One last perfect quote. John McKay, after his USC Trojans lost to Arkansas 22-7 in 1974, said, quote, "We threw poorly, tackled poorly, and coached poorly. Otherwise, it was a perfect night."
He had one of those about the Bucks, too, with the execution. I'm all for it. Good stuff. Tomorrow, Pro Swing. Appreciate y'all being with us. Have a great Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow.
Be there.
And one final note and reminder to stay nice and comfortable, especially as it's cold in Columbia. All right, it's just plain old cold. AAA Heating and Air ready to keep you and your family nice and cozy for the coming winter weeks. We'll say it that way here across the Midlands of South Carolina, 803-677-1500. If you need a repair, if the furnace is acting up on you, it's making weird sounds, heat pump's not kicking on, whatever it is that you use to stay warm, if it's not doing its job, then it's time for you to call AAA Heating and Air. And if you find out that, you know what, it might just be better for you to go ahead and get a brand new system, then Roy and Dana Finley have some fantastic opportunities for you. You get 15-year parts and labor guarantee because they stand behind everything they sell. $1,500 system buyback rebate, guaranteed financing, y'all. This is a great time. 803-677-1500. Quick repair, something new, anywhere in between. Stay nice and warm with AAA Heating and Air.